Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Socially Distanced Mechanical Engineering Commencement Ceremony. I'm Professor Will Northrup, Director of Undergraduate Studies for ME. So this is the first time, or actually the second time, if you count this morning, I've spoken to students in person since I've taken over this position from Professor Chase in July of 2020. I actually feel like I'm doing my job now, talking to you here in person. It's great to see you all here to celebrate your amazing achievements as ME graduates at University of Minnesota. It's been a rough year or so, but you persevered and made it to this moment. Needless to say, the ME faculty and staff are all really proud of you. In many ways, the last year has been full of challenges, and you might think that you didn't learn as much as you could have, or participated in as many activities as you would have liked, or been as productive you might have been. But perhaps we can see these times from a different perspective. We didn't plan to have a global pandemic interfere with our lives, but challenges we face in life often don't come with a warning. You've learned to face adversity, adapt, and succeed. I, for one, have learned to teach Zoom lectures from my bedroom with my cat jumping on my keyboard. Beyond expertise in fluid mechanics and design and manufacturing, you will certainly face more unforeseen challenges in your future careers as mechanical engineers. The resourcefulness and adaptiveness you've used to get your degree during these times will certainly come in handy. You may encounter situations in your future careers when you run into a tough problem and can't immediately talk to the person in the cubicle sitting next to you. You may not even have a cubicle. You might be working from home and communicating remotely with people all over the world. Our newfound ability to communicate and work virtually with others will allow you to connect with the right people and get the job done. Most aspects of normal life will return, but things we've learned during the pandemic will probably stay with us. I have confidence that as ME graduates from Minnesota, you will have the skills to take on whatever comes your way. So I'd love to keep talking to you here, but we have a tight timeline to follow, and so let's get started. So before I introduce Professor Mantel, I do have some logistics to point out. So, I'd like to make you all aware of the procedure for presentation of certificates, which is happening at the end. So when it's your turn, you'll stand at the X's, and you'll be called up to stand on the X's here along your right side of the stage, 6 feet apart. When it's time, you'll advance and place your salmon-colored name card on the table, and you'll hand off your photographer name card, which is in blue, as well. So then you'll advance across the stage right here, and then you'll stand by, there's an X in front of me here, and then you'll stop for a photo with the photographer. We'll be standing right there, and we'll smile even though you won't be able to see us because we'll have our masks on. So then after that, you'll proceed down these stairs here, be careful, and then make it to, there's another photography station over there, where you'll have 3 photos taken with different backgrounds. And at that point, you can take your mask off, and they'll tell you what to do over there. And then after that, you'll be placing your mask back on, and then walking down along the stanchions back to your seats. Okay? It went very smoothly this morning, so I suspect it'll go smoothly this afternoon. Later this morning. Okay. So when we're finished as well, I would also like to point out that you'll be leaving and be called up by rows to leave. And so we'll start with, I believe, the back row first, and then we'll be moving out these doors right here at the end. Okay. So that's logistics. So now, next I'd like to introduce our department head, Professor Sue Mantel. As most of you know, Professor Mantel is an amazing professor and a tireless advocate for our undergraduate students. We're lucky to have her leading our department, for sure. And I'm sure you've had her for a class or two, and I can attest to her dedication to teaching and the student experience in ME. Please join me in welcoming Professor Mantel.
Almost forgot to take the mask off. Thank you, Will. And welcome to all of you. I am so pleased to be here to speak to this group. I don't think I've seen this many people in person for over a year easily, although I have seen quite a few on Zoom when I teach Design and Manufacturing 1. So I want to welcome you and also your family and friends who I hope are streaming live, And I wanted to mention that there is a group of people that we're missing this year that we usually have, which is our alumni. So often, when we have this graduation, we'll have the 50-year Golden Jubilee group of alumni who have graduated 50 years before, and they've come back to do amazing things, and it's a day that they celebrate with us, your graduation, but their own 50 years ago. So we don't have any of those people here, but what I'd like to do is, and again, this is part of the active learning part of the ceremony, is to find out what you know about your classmates. If you have an alumni in your family or close relative who's an ME alumni, can you stand? Go ahead, don't be shy. Okay, ME alumni. How about CSE or IT alumni in your family, a close friend? All right, so before I thought everybody could wave to their alumni friends who are watching, but nobody can see, but I'll just say we have probably 15 alumni relatives here. Oh, good, go ahead and wave, because I guess we can. Go ahead and wave to our alumni who hopefully are out there watching you graduate today, and go ahead and sit down, and all of you will be alumni eventually, right? As soon as finals get done and the diplomas are issued. So alumni are really important to us, and for me, I'll use that later to talk about why I know that you will all be successful based on all the alumni I've met. But I also want to just say a few things about you and your accomplishments. And we all know how challenging it is to get into CSE and to get into the major, but now you've all finished or are close to finishing. So I wanted, again, just one more time, make sure everybody's awake and moving around a little bit. Who in here, if you could stand, is the first in your family to earn a 4-year degree? Anyone? We had a few this morning. Oh, let's give a hand for this. Just stay standing. We'll be joined by more. All right, this should bring out quite a few people. How about 30% of our students do co-ops and others do internships, so working at a company this summer. Stand if you've done a co-op or internship. Yeah. All right, this is great. Give yourselves a hand. This is really quite an accomplishment. And this should get everyone standing, and it really is an accomplishment for all of you. If you've worked on a project without ever meeting in person, so you've worked on a team project in the last year and never met with your group in person, stand. I hope I get everybody. So you all deserve a big hand. I just want to congratulate you for making it to this point. So go ahead and have a seat. And I hope that you take a moment when you're all done today and thank your family and friends for the support that they've given you along the way. And I will just say that working with students for me and for my colleagues is really an honor for all of us. And you provide us with the energy that we need to kind of be innovative and creative along the way too. It's part of one of the most exciting parts of our job. So one last thing, so my, final professorial perspective here is I want to just say that I know that leaving here and going on to whatever you're going to do, that you'll be successful. I have data. I have 30 years of experience being a professor here. I've met alumni who have gone on to start companies, create new technologies, change professions, all based on that their starting point was a mechanical engineering degree, the miscellaneous engineering degree. So I would just say that some of the reasons why I think you'll be successful, and these would just happen normally. You've faced the challenge of having 4 problem sets all due on the same day every week of the semester. You've had midterm week where we all decided to give midterm same week, semester. And these are challenging. Projects, team projects, final exams, all of these things that wouldn't have mattered whether we had the global pandemic or not. And you mastered that. And then in this last year, you've taken on the challenges of working remotely, take-home lab kits, virtually attending class, and working in teams with Zoom. And the skills you've acquired to adapt, to work independently when necessary, to engage with others while in different geographic locations, those are going to be your special skills, your tactics as you go forward and grow in your career to do things and work on things that you didn't learn how to do here because you have these skills and you are all agile learners. So it's my honor to be here inside McNamara and to wish all of you, and I maybe now I'm the second, so since Professor Northrup already did, but I want to wish you all congratulations and continued success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mantel. Next, I'd like to introduce Dean Paul Strakowski. Professor Strakowski is the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education in the College of Science and Engineering. And he's also an ME faculty. Though you might not have had him for a class in your time here, he's known for his dynamic lectures in classes like thermodynamics of fluid flow. As Dean, he's helped the ME department decode COVID guidelines and enabled ME to keep your education moving forward safely. So please join me in welcoming Dean Strakowski.
Thank you, Professor Northrup and Professor Mantel. And students, it is so amazing to see you in flesh. Even I can't always recognize you. It's so wonderful to see you. You may recall, as your Associate Dean, I welcomed you some years ago at Mariucci during Welcome Week, and if you entered as a transfer student, I probably welcomed you at our lunch gatherings between Lind Hall and Keller Hall. Today's a special day. I just want to share some thoughts with you, thoughts that I've thought a lot about myself as a faculty and a dean going through this last year or so, as well as all of the time you've been here at the university. I begin my remarks today sharing thoughts from a novel I recently finished called The Four Winds. In this part of the world, the winds are predominantly from the west. In the winter, from the northwest, moving to the west in the spring and to the west-southwest in the summer, and then returning west as the fall turns to winter and the earth completes its track around the sun. A process so embedded in our lives so as to proceed largely unnoticed. The novel, The Four Winds, is historical fiction surrounding the 1930s in the Central Plains of the United States. The Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, poverty, starvation, and stories highlighting how Americans didn't treat each other as they wished to be treated. The 1930s were very difficult years. The book describes these challenges through the lives of a single family as they migrate from the Texas Panhandle to California, surviving, sometimes just barely. But the message was overwhelmingly positive and forward-looking. The winds of change in that time were the four winds from the north, south, east, and west, bringing with them new opportunities to challenge and grow the human spirit. Your time at this university also carried the four winds, north, south, east, and west, particularly so these last 12 months, when challenges came from every conceivable direction. Some days, perhaps you felt isolated, but other days you realized you could solve some of the society's most challenging problems, lead with a renewed sense of strength, or develop a new way of understanding yourself and how you would fit into the world you were going to enter soon as a professional. Some days, we all took steps backward. But on others, you completed a race so exhilarating as to sustain you to this moment, the day you cross the stage and become a graduate of this great institution. You didn't just survive the westerly winds of the upper Midwest. You conquered the four winds. You see, the four winds helped you form that you are a scholar, a leader, a builder, a designer, a collaborator with infinite strength within you. No one can take away the badge of 2020-21. It has given you an opportunity to see yourself in new ways, stripping away veneers that generations before you were allowed to keep. My parents were from the so-called greatest generation. I subsequently was born as a baby boomer, and now we have new and equally unfair buckets into which you will be placed: millennials, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. There was no single greatest generation. Every generation has within it great people. In this room is the next great generation. Do not be labeled and accept labels. You have achieved so much in your young lives and have developed perhaps a perspective uniquely created by the challenges and opportunities of growing these last 12 months, when the winds did indeed come from every direction. My father told me about when I was your age that when you become old and you're ready to leave this earth, you will be wise. You will have figured it out why you were meant to walk this planet. Then he looked at me with a smile. He said, "Son," he actually called me Paul, but son sounds cool, that the key to life was to become wise before you get old. You've embarked on a journey through the College of Science and Engineering that brings you to this stage today with friends for life, with a belief in yourself, fortified by the challenges of the four winds. And you are wise more than you know. The challenges you have faced these last 12 months have certainly changed you. You can't push them under a rug, but don't ever let them define you. Remember, as you walk forward, the four winds will not always be at your back. But when you face winds head on, you will breathe it in and be empowered by the wisdom it provides. Very, very proud of you. Congratulations, class of 2021. Technical error.
Thank you, Dean Strakowski. So, next, it's a tradition in ME to invite a student speaker for our commencement events and our appreciation events. This year, I'm happy to introduce Micah Johnson, somebody you know quite well, a senior who's become famous for her starring role in our virtual tour of ME on the website and YouTube. She's also president of the Formula SAE team and is passionate about vehicles and racing, like myself. She's heading to General Motors after graduation, the company I left in 2011 to come to take this job. And she's going to be working in their promising fuel cell program. So please join me in welcoming Micah to the stage.
Hello, everybody. Fellow graduates, family members, and esteemed faculty, I am humbled and honored to have the opportunity to share 4 things I realized as a mechanical engineering student at the University of Minnesota. Number 1, we have to be humble. According to CSE admissions, 98.4% of us were in the top quarter of our high school. At the onset of freshman year, it's no doubt that we were brilliant. Physics 2 was when I started to question whether I was smart enough. Professor Oxon's thermodynamics class was a pivotal point, and also when I stopped wondering. I put hours into problem sets, joined study groups, and still ended up with an 8% on the final exam. I went home over summer break sure I would have to repeat the class. Checked my grades daily and was ecstatic and shocked when I got a C-. For me, that C- became a symbol of something bigger. That even in a perfect situation, when you have the calculations and the constraints, example problems, you put in long hours and have strong teammates, you might be confident, but dead wrong. When we work as full-time engineers, real people depend on us to use sound engineering judgment, good ethical principles, and solid factors of safety. Lives will depend upon us. I graduate with a confident mindset. Professors, thank you for my education and for teaching me to always double-check my work, question my assumptions, and ask others for help. Also, for all of you who got an A in thermo, tip my hat to you. Number 2, we have to get our hands dirty. The Formula SAE team brought engineering to life for me. In the Formula workspace and the ME student shop, the concepts from classes were put into practice. Making engineering judgment calls became more manageable as we experienced successes and failures. Some lessons were very personal. For example, in my first week, I was tasked with changing the oil in the 2017 Formula car. I'd never loosened an oil pan bolt before, and this particular one was over-torqued by at least 10 foot-pounds. Rather than reach for a breaker bar, I leaned really hard against the wrench, and when the bolt loosened, I hit my face against the car frame and gave myself a black eye for the first week of freshman year. I learned the importance of using the proper equipment moving forward. Another example of a failure and important lesson happened at the yearly Michigan competition. The car's drive chain snapped in the middle of our 22-kilometer race, resulting in disqualification. The root cause of the failure was a gross misalignment between the front and rear sprockets. Going off the SolidWorks model, everything looked great. With more focus on inspecting the actual car, we could have fixed the misalignment before failing out of the race. I think most mechanical engineers like getting their hands dirty. We want to design an engine and push it to the material and design limits by driving it really, really fast to make it better next time, you know? We like data, and we like what it can tell us about how our designs operate in the real world. You can learn all you want from a textbook, but sometimes it doesn't click until you've created it, held it in your hands, and tested its performance. Number 3, we gotta keep it simple. Many things in the world are explained by simple equations. F equals ma, PV equals nRT. As mechanical engineering students, we took statics and dynamics, deform, fluids, heat transfer, and the equations became more complex. Our ability to solve challenging questions developed and strengthened. We learned to use these equations to simplify difficult challenges and to make allowances for unknowns. This ability took an average of 4 years, 34 classes, and 125 credit hours. Well done, everyone. We can take on engineering challenges from around the world because we understand some very basic rules. When faced with something that seems unsolvable, we make a free body diagram, write our knowns, our unknowns. Where are the forces applied? Where's the heat going, and is it an issue? Something as complex as a car can be broken down into a few masses and springs. And number 4, we can take on problems with confidence. Look how far we've come. Perseverance, dedication, grit, whatever you want to call it, that's what it took. We didn't get here by just showing up and memorizing a few equations. We got here because we stayed up late, really, really late. We woke up early. We put pen to paper and figured it out. And when the world suddenly shifted around us, we adapted, rose to the challenge, and weathered the COVID storm. That took tenacity and an optimistic outlook. While writing this speech, I spent some time looking for quotes from famous engineers. For the most part, there are no famous engineers. I'd pose that engineers don't set out to become famous. We're too busy solving every problem the world throws at us. As Theodore von Karman, an aerodynamic theoretician that you've probably never heard of, said, "Scientists study the world as it is. Engineers create the world that has never been." The world is changing quickly. Autonomous vehicles, hydrogen power, landing on Mars. Imagine what we can do. I want to leave you with these thoughts. 1, if you believe you are the most competent person in a room, you're probably in the wrong room. Stop it. 2, please get your hands dirty any chance you get. Buy a tool set if you don't have one. 3, keep it simple, stupid. Always check the power cord first. And 4, we have the intellectual tools to make the world a better place. Our brains are now worth at least $100,000. To our family, friends, and professors, thank you. We could not have done this without your constant encouragement, willingness to listen, and support. I am honored I was allowed to speak to you today. To my fellow graduates, I wish you the very best in your life and career. Good luck and go Gophers.
Thank you, Micah. That was excellent. I also adhere to the KISS principle. I think it's definitely one of the solid engineering principles we should all pay attention to as we go into our future careers. So next, I'd like to introduce Professor Will Durfee over here. As you may know, he teaches our 2011 Introduction to Engineering course. For many students, this class in the robot show is the key motivating factor for choosing ME as their major. Professor Durfee will be reading your names as you before you cross the stage to be recognized. And please adhere to the guidelines that I specified at the beginning, hopefully, but you will be guided by some of the staff here to do that. So please hold all your applause to the end after all the names have been read. And then when we end the ceremony, everybody will exit in rows out the door. So let's get started.
Eric Odolan. Anis Atasha binti Abdul Jamal. Luke Answorth. Mazen Ibrahim Al-Amri. Hamoud Saif Al-Bahri. Muhammad Abdullah Al-Jabri. Samuel Goman. Aaron Balakrishna. Jonathan Barkai. Devin Barth. Lucas Bechtold. Emily Brown. Noah Arthur Duraney. Ryan Dunk. Jacques Frank Lauren. Michael William Gammon. Cassandra Lynn Krinke. Nathaniel Kelbs. Jonathan Landon. Michael Hastings. Bobby Herr. Colin M. Holden. Eric Indereden. Nicholas Robert Janicek. Micah Johnson. Joshua J. Kozer. Nathan Reese. Evan Douglas Sand. Bharath Shivaram. Justin Smet. Kong Lu. Callie Quinn Maas. Avery McLeod. Robert Martz. Samantha Miller. Farizul Iqbal bin Muhtar. Michael Wynn. Caleb Nunn. Chao Ching Chien. Morgan Rappy. Robert John Tomaska. Nikhil Tushibagwale. Satish Ram Upaluri. Daniel Lawrence Valdez. Madeline Wyland. Sean Robert Whitman. Thomas Aaron Wong. Kenton Thomas Zedon. Zihan Zhang.
Okay, as people are taking their seats, I just want to congratulate everybody again. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2021. So, just a couple of parting words here. You know, this is a special time in your lives. I'm sure you'll remember it forever, especially given the unusual circumstances that we're celebrating this under. It's really been a pleasure to be with you here today. So I know you'll persevere in whatever path you take after your ME degree. So stay well, and please stay in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you and understand and know what you're doing as time goes on. And yeah, please come back to visit us. So with that, I'm going to conclude our ceremony. And as I said, people are going to guide you out the back. So just one more time, I'd like to congratulate you, and we'll hope to see you this afternoon. Last row first, yeah.